Welcome to Roofing Road Trips, the podcast that takes you on a thrilling journey across the world of roofing. From fascinating interviews with roofing experts to on-the-road adventures, we'll uncover the stories, innovations, and challenges that shape the rooftops over our heads. So fasten your seatbelts and join us as we embark on this exciting roofing road trip.
Hello, welcome to Roofing Road Trips from Roofers Coffee Shop. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and today we're here to talk about the number one challenge for roofing contractors and all contractors, pretty much everybody right now, and that is finding skilled labor, getting the best employees, the best talent for your business. So we have brought the experts from High Peak Staffing Solutions, Tony and Kristin Case, to talk about strong communications and how that really helps your recruiting and working with recruiters. So Tony, Kristin, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Exciting.
Just so excited. I love this conversation. This is the number one. We just did our trends report, and this is the number one challenge for contractors is finding talent. And to have people like both of you to really help and I love this topic we're talking about today on really how to work well together to get the best results. So let's start with some introductions first. So Kristin, let's start with you. If you could introduce yourself and tell us about your company.
All right, you got it. Hi, I'm Kristin Case. I'm the co-owner of High Peak Staffing Solutions with my wonderful husband, Tony. We've been in business now a little over 3 years. I come from a background of 15 years in recruiting, agency recruiting, and 10 years in the roofing industry. So I'm going into my 11th year in 2025. And we decided to open up our own company because we saw that there was a big need in this industry for folks that specialize in roofing recruiting. And so far, it's been awesome. It's taken off. We've been able to help a ton of companies. We're growing, and being a part of this, roofing road trips is so awesome for us.
We love it. We love it. And it makes us feel so good to be able to bring all of you to the contractors to really solve some of these issues with recruitment, basically. So Tony, if you could introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do with the company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Heidi. This is, I believe this is our 5th podcast now, the very first time with the big boss. So we're excited, but we're also a little bit anxious, a little nervous, but I can't thank you enough for having us on. Again, my name's Tony Case. I'm the co-owner with my beautiful wife. When we decided to do this, I think it was more so because Kristin has such exceptional relationships within this industry that we wanted to take those, make them our own, build on them. And we've really seen that over the last couple of years. We've been able to scale our company. We've hired on, some really great recruiters that do this specifically. We are industry specific. It kind of makes us unique that this is all we do. And we try to be the best, not the biggest, but we compete against the biggest and win every day. And that's kind of what we pride ourselves in. That's what we want to do. We're going, like Kristin said, we're going into our 4th year here in January, and we're really excited about the future and excited about the relationships that we're building and growing upon.
Yeah, I tell you what, we talk about this all the time with contractors where we say, work with people who understand roofing. So what you're doing for the roofing industry is so important and you understand it. That makes such a huge difference.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree.
So one of the things that is so important for successful recruiting is communications. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'd love to start with you, Kristin, on just why is communication with recruitment agencies so critical for success?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is actually, from the very first conversation that we have with a company, when it's an intro call to whether, we figure out if we're going to move forward with working with them, getting that job order and aligning expectations is the most important thing to me. When we're working together, you're hiring us on to provide a service because you guys have, I'm assuming you've exhausted your own resources and now you're coming to a specialized source. So it's really about aligning those expectations and making sure that when we present a candidate over to you, that we're matching those needs that you have. So taking a good detailed job order call all the way from, what are the must-haves to what are the desired skill sets to, do you guys do an assessment at the end that is going to be a factor in deciding if you're going to hire this person or not? So it's really about, from the very beginning, lining up what our expectations are and making sure that we're all on the same page from the very first call. Would you agree, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are in the relationship business. Again, like we talked about, this is kind of the reason we got into this, is because Kristin has such, very valuable and such great relationships. And if we can't communicate clearly, if we can't communicate openly, we don't know if we can build that relationship. We might not be the best recruitment agency for you. So that's something that we find out in the initial job order, the initial call, the initial time we speak is, are we going to be able to communicate? Who are those people that we're going to be communicating with? And we have to identify those immediately and make sure that this is going to be a fit for both parties. We have the ultimate objective to be a trusted advisor. And if you can't trust us and we can't trust you, we can't trust that we're going to communicate, then, we might not be the best fit for you. So we have to identify those immediately.
Yeah. And, you really think about, everyone has different communication styles. And so everyone, some people are just like really brief, some people are really detailed. So making sure that everyone is on the same page. And I'd like to kind of talk about that, how you clearly communicate back to the contractor, kind of almost mirroring them back to them on what they're looking for in their ideal candidate, so that you're on the same page. So Kristin, maybe you can start us off on that, how that works.
I always say you have to be a chameleon to whom you're speaking with, because some of my clients love being on the phone, and, you get that from the very beginning, call me, I'll answer. Or some are, I'm so busy, I can respond very quickly in a text and email. So going back to what I was saying is, from the very first conversation, let's just assume that we've agreed, all right, let's move forward. You have a need. We're going to help you fill that need. It's defining very clearly what the role is. What are the main priority skill sets? What are the must-haves? So let's say you have 3 must-haves, but you have 6 things you really want, but 3 of them you absolutely must have. So if it's an estimator, maybe they have to have TPO, EPDM, PVC roof systems. Maybe they have to know the Edge software. Maybe they have to be able to get a secret clearance to work on government contracts. And then outside of that, maybe you don't really care where they're located or if they have 5 or 10 years of experience, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really trying to hone in on what those must-have skill sets are, and then going from there, so that when we are getting with our team, we can say, don't forward anyone unless they've got these things. And then we kind of go from there. I would say outside of that, making sure that they're a good company culture fit. That's a really big one. And that is not something that you can see on paper. That's really in the process of talking to the client and talking to the candidate, about what their needs are. Because if I just send someone on paper that looks good and then they talk to them and it's just absolutely not a good fit personality wise, whatever it may be, then it doesn't make me look good. So you kind of got to wrap all those things up in a pretty bow and send them off and make sure that we're all on the same page. So when I'm describing a candidate, they're excited about that candidate, right?
Yeah. And you don't want to have to go back and forth so many times and be like, no, you're not getting it. So having that clear communication up front that this is what we need, then that everyone's happy in the end. I mean, and really you've got three parts, right? You've got the owner, you've got the potential employee and the recruiters.
Yeah. And I always say, I think it's my personality and where I came from, being that I am Italian Irish, we get to the point quickly. Yeah. So it's like, if I'm not doing it right in the first couple of days, I'm going to make sure I'm getting it right the next couple of days, right? Instead of sitting around and waiting, I have to identify that, because we want every party to be happy. I want our new company to be super excited about the candidates that they're seeing, and I want the candidates to feel the same way.
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Well, and I think that's it. And then I know that there are some common communication mistakes that roofing contractors make when they're starting to work with recruitment. So Tony, can you kind of talk about some of those common mistakes? Because I think it would help contractors out there to say, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that when we see this, what we see most often is the evolution of the job description, where Kristin just mentioned, if we're presenting candidates that maybe are close, but they're not the exact thing that you're looking for, we need to understand that. We need to update our search, tactics. We need to update who we're looking for, what we're trying to identify them as. And so if we don't have that communication right away of, we like this about this candidate, we like that about that candidate. If we can merge these things together to find that perfect fit, that's what we're looking for. And so those things, they adapt, they evolve constantly, every day. So if there's one thing that I would say is the major point is the evolution of the job description. After that, it's probably, if we don't have consistent feedback, if it's coming from maybe, 2 people, 3 people, like I said, we need to identify who that decision maker is and then get it from the horse's mouth, if you will. We need to speak with that person right away. And then maintaining that open dialogue, consistent check-ins, things like that, where if we don't know what's happening with the evolution, with adapting to that role, that could be a big hurdle to overcome.
When you're talking about these communications, it seems to me like there's a lot of expectations too. Really setting expectations is so important. So how do you do that with your roofing companies to realistically set a time to hire, the expectations so that everybody's on the same page during that hiring process? Kristin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you have to be a little bit fearless, right? So when I am talking to a client, and this is just an example for those who listen, that, if you're hiring for a position and you haven't hired for this role in 6 years, the times have changed, the salaries have changed, the things that sizzle have changed, for candidates. So sometimes you have to have that heart to heart with them. And this goes back to what Tony was saying, that if I know a market rate in a certain area and I know my client's not going to reach it, then we go back to the must-haves. We need to scratch one of those must-haves, because we will be able to find maybe 2 of the 3 that are the must-haves if your salary expectations aren't it. So we have to meet in the middle. And I put those up front and in their face so that they know, okay, I'm going to send someone who's above your salary range and you're not going to like that. So I'm going to send someone within the salary range, but they may not be the diamond in the rough that you were looking for. So it's just about upfront, having those conversations. I've been in the game so long that if you don't have these conversations up front with your clients or potential clients, then you get to the 11th hour and no one's on the same page. And then everyone's a loser. So we wanted everyone to be a winner in this. So it's just making sure to have those tough conversations up front. It provide stats and facts, which I have no problem doing. Salary.com is a great tool, and, just letting them know up front, like clear communication. And then what I specifically do is I send that recap email to them so that it's all in writing, so that we can revisit this if they need to. And we can say, remember, we had that conversation. So, and then like the evolving job description. Okay, if things are moving in one direction, what can we take off or what do we have to add? So that's what I would probably say is how I go about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you're looking at it, I just am thinking about how busy everyone is out there. I don't know. It's just something about our world right now. Everybody's so busy. So really being able to set those expectations. I know I've talked to both of you before about how important it is, the speed to interview, right? Because talent, everybody's trying to get all the talent and really bring that. So how do you really set that and maintain that momentum from the time you present the candidate to the roofing company to that interview, and really communicating how important it is to be kind of fast along that lines? Tony?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to identify that timeline, the very first call. When we're taking that job order, when we're taking these things, that when we're finding that out your needs and we're trying to figure out, one, can we go to our stable of candidates that we have and start there? But we have to identify that timeline first off, initially. I'm looking to hire this guy tomorrow. Everyone's needs are urgent and everyone's needs are mandatory. Everyone has I need a unicorn tomorrow. And sometimes that doesn't happen. So we need to identify that immediately. After that, we have to identify who's involved in the process. Kristin knows after doing this for 15 years that if you have multiple calendars to manage, this is going to be a little bit more confusing, a little bit harder on us, but also a little bit harder to make sure that we're interviewing this person in an appropriate time frame and keeping that momentum. The momentum is exactly what we're looking for. We present someone, you say you love them, let's get in front of them, let's talk to them. We cannot wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to have that conversation, either over the phone or in person or video conference, whatever that looks like. So I think, managing that expectation, but also figuring out whose calendars we're managing, get that interview on the schedule, and then make sure that we're following up with not only our candidate, we as the recruiters have the obligation and responsibility to be that person. We're communicating with our candidates and with our clients. We are the segue. We are that person. And so we have to make sure that we're following up and making sure that we keep the momentum with both parties. And so I'd say that, Kristin, anything to add there?
No, I definitely agree with everything that you said. I also will mention that I do lean in on my clients. So if there's a scenario where, let's say this, they interviewed someone and they're very excited, but they're going on a business trip or their convention or whatever, family vacation, and they're not going to be available for a week, I can only tell a candidate so many times that, oh my gosh, they're so interested in you. We're going to hear from them soon. So sometimes I'll lean into my client and shoot over their number and say, hey, would you mind shooting them a text and just saying, hey, I'm out of town. I can't wait to get you on my calendar when I return. When they hear that from a client, from the hiring authority, they will drop everything and say, oh my gosh, they're interested in me. I don't need to look elsewhere. If they don't hear anything, they feel like any human that they've been ghosted and they feel, okay, I need to move in a different direction. So it's really a partnership when you work with us. It's, hey, Brian, can you shoot Johnny a text really quick and let him know that you're going to be able to get him on the calendar next week? I'll coordinate everything, but him just hearing from you is going to be phenomenal. No problem, Kristin, I'm on it. And then everything's good, And I think that's a big thing that, candidates need to hear is just, do you like me or not?
It's just simple, so normal. Yeah, I know.
Yes, because in this market, it's tough, Yeah.
And it's so, I know, especially, talking to young kids coming out of school or looking and they're like, no one tells me where I'm at, what's going on. I don't know what's happening, And so, and then they get discouraged too. And it turns them off for that long-term possibility.
What, we want to avoid that,
Yeah. I mean, you want people to come in excited and feeling like the process has been really good, right? As it goes through.
We're all pumped up. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Kristin, you said a little while ago, even from the very beginning of when you're talking to a company who has just retained you, that you're kind of sending back our emails that explain the process so that not only have they heard it, but they've read it. So what are one of the things that roofing companies should expect when it comes to the feedback, basically the different types of feedbacks about that interview, whether it's in writing, call, what should they expect and how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times after an interview, I'll hear from the client. If I hear from the company, hey, we liked the candidate, I will try to figure out what they did like. Did you really like their edge experience? Did you really like their tenure? Did you really like, that they're bilingual? What is it? And then I'll flip that and go to the candidate and re-qualify the candidate. And the reason why you want to do this is, to all recruiters out there, is because if you have a candidate interview for a position and let's say the job description that they read and everything looked good and they went in for the interview and things have changed. Maybe the company has added travel to this role. Well, guess what? Now the salary expectations have changed. So I need to requalify the candidate and provide that feedback to the company. So, hey, Sally is very interested in this opportunity that you guys are interviewing her for, but being that she's going to be traveling 50% of the time, she's actually going to be looking for 10 to 15% more on her salary. Can you guys do that? And would you like to continue the process? So that now we've moved the goalpost. Everyone is now on the same page. And now we know A, is 85 or 95, that 15% base increase now in the ballpark that we could bring those types of candidates to the table, or is it not? And then, now we need to find candidates that are open to travel. So it's really about making sure that we're all on the same page as we continue through this process. Because if they tell me no, then we've now eliminated this candidate and we are now starting from the beginning, right? Which is totally fine. But we want to make sure that by providing that feedback to them, there's no guessing at the, 11th hour.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, total sense. And how do you recommend doing that? Is a combination of phone call and in writing? Is most of what you do in writing just so that people have it kind of documented?
So I am a call and then recap. It's just been embedded into my brain.
Yeah.
You call, you try to, because sometimes over the phone, it's easier to explain the reasoning, and then followed up with a recap email just to ensure that, we're all on the same page. And, sometimes that people are so busy, it's easier to revert back to an email because they may forget what exactly we talked about. So that's just my formula is call, recap.
That makes sense. And I think that helps everybody as they're doing it. You mentioned the offer, going back, requalifying, and then moving to the offer. So Tony, talk just a little bit again about the importance of communication and also moving swiftly once they know they like somebody and getting to that offer.
Absolutely. And I think that's, you already mentioned it, Heidi, you hit that nail on the head, is that pushing that process along is vital. We cannot have, because sometimes the interview process can already be those 3-4 weeks. It can be an initial phone call. It can be then a Zoom call or a video conference. And then it can be a series of in-person interviews or whatever that looks like. So once we've done that, sometimes it's strenuous. Sometimes it's cause a little stress on both parties. But once we have that and we have that decision made, we try to make it a seamless process to the offer stage. Kristin has done numerous, she's provided numerous feedback, and she can get those things moving in the right way, where either we're providing the offer letter, we're providing, DocuSign documents to make it just streamlined and easy to where you can do this, you can sign it, you can get it back. We have a start date. We know exactly what we're doing. So we try to make that streamlined, but we try to push that process. We want to make sure that it happens in a timely manner because we want to keep that momentum. We cannot have a person interview, be extremely excited about their new career, their new path, and then it takes 6 weeks, 7 weeks to get that going. So we try to get that going exactly how it's supposed to be. We try to make sure all parties are satisfied. Everyone has exactly what they need. We clearly communicate that in the opening phases, and we have them. Once we have those signs. What are the post-interview procedures? How many background checks are you running? Is there an assessment that we need to make sure that we've provided? Is there anything that we can make sure that it's on the table, cleared and identified and completed before we get to this process, so that we have every box is checked, everything is taken care of, and we're ready to go when the offer's ready.
And I think, again, you mentioned this earlier about culture. By doing that and making sure that it is a seamless process, you're kind of hopefully taking them right into this great culture, hopefully of training and the company, and the experience of getting hired just adds to the excitement of working for this new company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's okay. So I want to kind of go back a little bit to, expectations. When we're talking about roofing contractors, whether it's their HR department, the owner, whoever it is, how often should they be checking in with you during this active search? What kind of expectations do you have for them reaching out to you, or are you mostly reaching out to them? How does that work?
Well, I will say they can reach out as many times as they want, but it is our responsibility to be retouching base with our clients. So of course I'm available always. I really am. I love phone, text, email, whatever it may be, because I'm excited to get anyone a job. So I'm available. But it's really our responsibility to say, hey guys, what's the next step? What's the follow-up? Because we have to respect that this is our job, their own jobs. They may be recruiting 50 positions in HR. They may be a president of a roofing company. They may be, a senior VP of sales. That we are really here to make your life easier. So it's usually me, which I front load this, pestering you and pushing this process along in a very friendly way, just so that I'm here, and that there's always conflicting schedules and busy people and multiple hiring managers. It's just really about them knowing that I'm available for them and Tony and our teams as needed, when needed. That's how I go about it. I don't want to wait for them to reach out to me. I want them to know I'm available.
The only thing I would add to that is if you anticipate being successful in this industry, you better not be waiting for your clientele to reach out to you. It's
true.
If they're trying to hunt you down, you're probably not doing it very well.
Yeah. As you're going out there. Well, I love what you, Kristin, what you said just a minute ago, that you love finding people jobs. You know,
It's the best.
Yeah. When you're that passionate about what you do, I feel the same way about what we do. So that, to me, that just speaks volumes right there.
Well, and there are scenarios where it just happens, where sometimes things fall through the cracks, and it could be a candidate that is so interested and, they had to take another job because the interview process was too slow for them, or a client, missed out on an opportunity with a great candidate because XYZ. So it's just really about transparency is so key. And don't be afraid to be transparent with your clients. Now, they may tell you, hey, it will be a week before you hear from me. And that's fine. We have to, we'd have to live with that. But we will try our best to keep those open lines of communication and keep that momentum up, because we want, a successful partnership here.
Right. Well, and I love the fact how you're talking about, really hand-holding that candidate through this while making sure that the client is moving, right? And so that you guys really are the balance in between those two to keep everybody happy. That's a lot. But I'm thinking from a company, that's exactly what I would want with my recruiters.
I will say that, not to get too off topic, candidates really appreciate when you spend the time with them. Hey, this is the company. This is the hiring manager. Here's the job description. They feel like they have an advocate. And also, let's just say the salary expectations have changed, or something has changed in the situation from the first interview to the final interview, knowing that we have their back, and we're working for our clients, but we're advocating for the candidate as well. And sometimes when they feel like they have a voice, that we will go to bat for them, they really appreciate that. And 9 times out of 10, it ends up working out at the end of the day anyway, so that's a big part for me. I really, that hand holding, all the way to the end, all the way till after they start,
Yeah. Checking in on them. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, just to kind of recap, going back where we started at the beginning, it's all about communication. That what you're doing to set expectations, first of all, with the client, the roofing company, of what to expect, how this process works and everything. And then having that same expectations of how this should work with the candidates. It seems like it brings everybody, it's now we're full circle, right? That everybody's on the same page. They all have the same expectations of how this is going to work. And when that happens, which I know happens all the time with you all, that just seems to me that is when you would have some of the happiest customers out there. What's some of the feedback from your customers on setting those expectations and working together and the success that brings? Kristin?
Yeah, usually it's thank you, because they don't come from that world. They may be an ops manager and they've got a million things on their plate, and here I am, poking them every other day, and helping assist along in the process. It's usually, thank you for staying on me, because we didn't want to miss out on this great candidate. And I guess I'd say the best reward is, right after we place someone, if we turn around and get another job order right after that, that's like the biggest pat on the back to us. And, or if they introduce us to another branch or another company or whatever it may be, it just shows that the formula is working. And you just have to be, communicate. You just got to be fearless. You got to, that's what building relationships is all about. That when I call them, they're not annoyed with me. They're, okay, let's get to the next step, and I could read the room, if it's time to take a step back, you take a step back. If it's time to push forward, we're going to push forward. So, but usually it's with positive feedback.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. So for the roofing contractors out there who are hearing this right now, or distribution, or anyone out there who's looking for help with getting great talent, how do they start? How do they get a hold of you? But then how, kind of what's that process? Give them a little glimpse of how that would work. Tony?
Yeah, I mean, we're extremely active on LinkedIn. Our website is extremely active. If we want to speak with you, we want to at least identify what are your goals. Can we help you achieve those goals? And if so, and if our those two things align, we are looking for you, and hopefully you're looking for us. And we have this Roofers Coffee Shop partnership. So if there's anything that you have a phone or a computer, hopefully these days you can find us, and we're waiting for your call.
And have that initial conversation to create that good fit and develop success in the recruiting. That's amazing. And yes, you have a full directory on Roofers Coffee Shop where you can get a hold of both Tony and Kristin really easy.
Yeah.
I just have to say thank you. Thank you for bringing such positive, successful solutions to a real problem in the industry. And that is bringing the contractors and the candidates and the workers together, the talent. I think you guys are just doing an amazing job. Thank you for all you do for the industry.
So much. Thank you so much. We are so excited. And I mean, it's just, the market is just blowing up, and we'll be at the IRE. We just can't wait to meet all the people and continue our growth down the road.
And we'll have you on the soundstage at IRE so we can hear more about what's going on and all that recruiting down in Texas. There you go.
I'll be there.
I know. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you both for being on. I so appreciate your time. I love this conversation. And for all the contractors out there who are listening to this, hey, you've gotten golden nuggets. You know exactly how to go about it, and you know who to talk to. So here's a solution for a big problem. Again, last time, Tony and Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for having us. We appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. Wow, great stuff for your business. This is what it's all about. Please check out the High Peak Staffing Solutions directory on Roofers Coffee Shop. Get a hold of them. Find out how you can get that talent, that real talent that you need in your business for success in 2025. Also, check out all of our podcasts under the Read, Listen, Watch navigation under Roofing Road Trips, or on your favorite podcast channel. Be sure to subscribe and set those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. We'll be seeing you next time on Roofing Road Trips.
If you've enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us on every roofing adventure. Make sure to visit rooferscoffeeshop.com to learn more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next roofing road trip.